Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today. And today, the Texans lose to the New York Jets 21-13. Tough loss for the Texans tonight. Obviously, this was not the performance we wanted to see the Texans go make out there tonight, but I can't say I'm surprised. I thought the Texans were going to struggle on the pass end without Stephon Diggs, still no Nico Collins. Also doesn't help when you're facing such a good pass defense. Here was the one thing I did expect for this Texans team tonight, what I did expect them to have amazing success with, which was their run game. 24 carries for Joe Mixon, 106 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Unfortunately, he did have a lot of big runs. There was about 2 or 3 big runs for Joe Mixon in this game that got pushed back due to holding calls, of course. One was a call on a wide receiver, Robert Woods. The other was one of our offensive linemen. I don't think it was Tunsil. I know Tunsil did have a false start or 2 in this game. But I can't remember the exact lineman that got one of the first holding calls on a big Joe Mixon run. I know the last one was on Robert Woods, but he had a great game. Although he had a great game, there were some big, rushes that were, called back for him tonight, which was bad. But I did have a good feeling that was going to be the strong suit for the Texans in this game, because if you look at the Jets, I wouldn't call them a all-around great defense. They are a great pass defense, for sure. You look at some of the they've played 9 games this year. They have done a great job against quarterbacks. You look at the 3 top performances for quarterbacks against them this year. The 3 highest passing yard performances against the Jets pass defense this year. Josh Allen at only 215. Brock Purdy at only 232. And very funny enough, the highest passing yard total against the New York Jets this year is Russell Wilson at like 260-something. So this Jets defense has been phenomenal. They held a Bo Nix quarterback who's been, I think, pretty good as a rookie to, I believe it was under 90 rushing yards, and it reminds me a lot of C.J. Stroud's performance last year. They've had so many other good performances against quarterbacks this year and have done a great job. Now, where has there been a struggle for, this Jets defense? That's been against the run, and the Texans showed that tonight. So many other teams have showed that this year. The 49ers have, the Bills have, the Steelers did. So many other teams have done that. Najee Harris went off against them. So many other running backs and quarterbacks on the running side of the football have gone off against the Jets this year. The only thing that we haven't seen very much has been quarterbacks going off in the past game. Besides Russell Wilson, there hasn't been any great performances against this Jets defense so far. But the one category where they've been killed is in the run. Joe Mixon showed that with his 106 rushing yards tonight. Stroud had one of his best rushing performances I've seen at over 50 rushing yards. I think it was 57, 59. Even the veteran, or it's kind of veteran, added in from the practice squad, J.J. Taylor had 3 carries for 23 rushing yards. So a phenomenal performance of the run game tonight. But here's the thing. Some teams can have no success against this Jets defense in the pass and kill them on the run and get a win. But I'm sorry, but the Texans can't do that. And I love Joe Mixon. He's great. It's not against him, but with how many penalties you see get called on the offensive line, whether it's a holding on a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, or it's false start by Laramie Tunsil or someone else, or it's all these stupid penalties at the offensive line, or it's all these stupid sacks that the Texans give up. 8 sacks that the offensive line gave up tonight. You can't, with the offensive line performance like that, even though Joe Mixon went out there, and C.J. Stroud and J.J. Taylor on the run game tonight, and did everything they could to give the Texans the win by killing the Jets where it hurts them the most. You can't do that when the offensive line is as terrible as they were, giving up 8 sacks and having all the penalties. Because you get into second and third and long situations where you can't go to Joe Mixon on the run, and you have to pass against such a good pass defense. So, honestly, without Collins and without Diggs, I really didn't expect the Texans to get a win. But here's the one thing I can be proud of this team tonight. The one thing I can be proud of is that the Texans did something they didn't do last year. Was they competed with the Jets. This was a close game, and the Texans had this game. They were fighting for this football game. That has not happened. That did not happen against the Jets last year. Texans only scored 6 points against this Jets defense last year. C.J. Stroud looked terrible. He didn't even throw for 100 passing yards. The defense looked terrible. The defense gave up 30 points to Zach Wilson. It was terrible last year, but I thought it was better this year. Not only was the run game effective tonight for the Texans, which it wasn't against the Jets last year. I love Singletary. I love what he did last year. It was a great season for him. Pierce had some solid moments as well, even though there weren't many. But they weren't. The run game was not effective in that game. Stroud didn't have a great run performance, which is something he did tonight. They couldn't get anything going offensively. Nothing whatsoever. Stroud threw 91 passing yards. So in this game, I know it wasn't a good performance for CJ. I'm not going to go around and lie and say it was, because he went 11 for 30 with 191 passing yards. No, in what universe is that a good game? But that is kind of the average of what this Jets defense is doing against quarterbacks this year. And not only that, but he was way better than he was last year against this team. I look at some of the things he did, and he was able to take shots to some wide receivers in this game, which is something he did not do last year. He had a 50-yard shot to take Dell in this game, which was a big throw, and unfortunately the Texans could not capitalize on that drive. He had a 33-yard shot to Robert Woods. You did not see Stroud taking shots and those shots working against the Jets last year. Also, another thing, this defense, even though they had their struggles tonight, the amazing Garrett Wilson touchdown, the Devontae Adams touchdown, there was another touchdown for Garrett Wilson. The defense was better tonight. I'll take 21 points with Aaron Rodgers. I'll take this defense giving up 21 points against Aaron Rodgers over giving up 30 points against Zach Wilson any other day. Not only is it 9 less points given up, but it's also a completely different quarterback that the Texans were facing in this game. Zach Wilson threw for 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. I know Rodgers threw for 3 touchdowns as well. He threw for 200. But it's a different quarterback that the Texans were facing tonight. Rodgers is a lot better than than Zach Wilson. So I thought the defense, even though they had their downs tonight, were better against this Jets team than they were last year. The offense was, the defense was, but the Texans cannot do enough to win this football game. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but if this team can get a little bit more healthier, I think the Texans show a little bit better of their ability as a football team. Stroud has that extra option with Nico Collins. I think that's a game changer, and I really hope the Texans can get him back next week against the Lions. There's a decent possibility that does happen against the Lions next week. So it was a tough performance, but it was against a great. It was going up against a great Jets defense, and I think it was easy to predict the Texans were going to be more effective in the run game tonight, and that happened. Let's go to the scoring summary. Joe Mixon had 3-yard rushing touchdown. That was the only score in the first half, but it got interesting in the second, and the Texans would put some points on the board, but they were matching them in the wrong way. Garrett Wilson with the 21-yard touchdown reception from Aaron Rodgers, 7-7. Aaron Rodgers with a 26-yard touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson. Unbelievable catch by Garrett Wilson. Oh my God. I've seen some great touchdown receptions. The Odell reception that they showed tonight after this catch, the catch Odell had against the Cowboys. As a Texans fan, I went to a Christmas game years and years ago, or not years and years ago, but 7 years ago, against the Steelers, where Hopkins made an amazing catch that I saw live, thrown by T.J. Yates. Amazing Hopkins catch. And watching the Texans, I've seen some incredible DeAndre Hopkins catches. Even the new age, I've seen some incredible Nico Collins catches. I've seen some incredible catches elsewhere with other players. Phenomenal. This is up there for me. This was an amazing catch. And it's so hard being a Texans fan watching this Because as a Texans fan, you don't want to see this kind of stuff happen. But as a football fan, it's just so entertaining to see this kind of stuff happen. And for me, it's hard. It's hard, but I have to applaud. It's incredible. That type of play is incredible. And I hate to see it as a Texans fan. But as a football fan, seeing it play like that, I want to see entertaining football plays, entertaining catches, entertaining throws. This is up there. This is going to be one of the top plays of the year. What a phenomenal catch by Garrett Wilson. Oh, my God. Then this is another one. This is another tough one for me, at least. To seal the game with 2 minutes and 56 seconds left, Aaron Rodgers with a 37-yard touchdown pass to Davante Adams. As a Texans fan, this is another one I don't like, but as a football fan, love Davante Adams. I'm not a big fan of Aaron Rodgers as a person, but as a football player, watching Aaron Rodgers the last 7 years, love Aaron Rodgers as a football player, and love watching those two guys together. And I haven't seen it in 3 years. And these last couple weeks, it hasn't been great between those two. And now tonight, to see those guys connect for a touchdown for the first time in 3 years, for me, to see it sealed the deal for the Texans and know it's okay, it's over. It sucks. Although I will say, even though it sucks to see that touchdown happen, I don't think the Texans were going to win this game anyways. Texans really didn't come out with a winning energy to me in this game. But to see that first touchdown connection for Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, or just a deep ball connection for the two of them, for years and years apart, I love it. I hate it as a Texans fan, but as a football fan and as a Davante and Rodgers fan, I love it. Texans did make a 29-yarder, 21-13. Yeah, Farrenbeer really hurt us in the fourth quarter, missing a 27-yarder with 5 or 6 minutes left. That really hurt because that kick goes in. The Texans would have been in position in that last drive where they end up going for the 29-yard field goal to get a touchdown and then a 2-point conversion to tie the game up. But Farrenbeer missed a 27-yarder. And the worst thing about that 27-yarder is Farrenbeer on that exact drive ended up making a 43-yarder, but there was a penalty on the Jets. Texans got the football back and ended up having the football at the 12-yard line. Things didn't work out. Ended up kicking the 27-yard kick. And what obviously happens, he misses it. Kind of wish the Jets penalty didn't happen, because if the penalty doesn't happen right there, the Texans would have an extra 3 points on the board. And the last drive is kind of a little bit different for the Texans than it was. Kicking a 29-yarder. You don't see the Texans kick that 29-yarder if the penalty doesn't happen and the 43-yarder is good. So that was tough. Game leader Stroud threw 11 for 30, 191 passing yards. I know it wasn't a great performance on CJ, but it obviously wasn't a good performance at all for Stroud. But again, it was the Jets' pass defense who's been phenomenal, and not only that, but also the Texans were going to be run dominant in this game, going up against the Jets' terrible run defense. They were with Joe Mixon. J.J. Taylor had some nice carries. Stroud himself had some big rushes. So I expected a big run game and a not-so-big pass game for the Texans tonight. Rodgers, 22 for 32, 211 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. What makes Rodgers' performance more impressive is he was bad in the first half. He was terrible in the first half. Only 32 passing yards. What does he do in the second half? He throws for 179. Joe Mixon, 24 carries, 106 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Breece Hall, 15 carries, 74 rushing yards. Tank Dell, phenomenal in his first game as the wide receiver 1, 6 receptions, 126 receiving yards. But tough thing is, he was, he doesn't have much help out there. And it's really the only guy that Stroud's looking for. I mean, outside of Robert Woods. And a great performance for Tank. I think he showed some great things. And I think what makes it even more impressive is he had a great performance tonight against a defense that does a great job against wide receivers, does a great job against quarterbacks. So I'm impressed with Tank Dell. But here's the thing: I'm gonna ask of Tank Dell. I want to see performances like this from Tank Dell, even when Nico Collins gets back. We saw performances like this when Nico Collins was healthy last year, and the two of those guys were the two main wide receivers for the Texans last year. we have not seen that for Tank Dell this year. You know, when playing with Stephon Diggs, when it's just the two of them, or if it's been playing with Diggs and Collins. So I hope Dell can stay at this type of level, or a level that is near this, even when Nico Collins is back. I think that will be interesting to see. Devontae Adams had 7 receptions, 91 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Great performance from Devontae. His best game as a New York Jet. Joe Mixon did throw a pass in this game that was thrown to C.J. Stroud. He wanted a pass interference. He did not get it. Stroud, 8 carries, 59 rushing yards. He was phenomenal. Like I mentioned, J.J. Taylor, 3 carries, 53 rushing yards. The Texans' run game was phenomenal. 36 carries, 187 rushing yards, a touchdown. But, like I mentioned, you can't win a football game with the run when you have an offensive line who gives up 8 sacks and has so many penalties, because you're going to have more second and long and third and longs than usual than a usual team should have. So even though Joe Mixon is great, even though Stroud was great on the run, and J.J. Taylor had some good runs as well, Texans cannot win a football game with their run because of how bad the offensive line is and how they will set you back with a sack or a penalty. Outside of Dell with 6 receptions for 126 receiving yards, that wasn't much more after that, since Stroud only threw for 191. Robert Woods had 2 receptions for 44 receiving yards. He had an amazing 32-yard catch. Dalton Schultz had 3 receptions for 21 receiving yards. That was it. This is the least amount of guys that C.J. Stroud has gotten involved this year. He was targeting other guys. Three targets for DeRay, 2 for Cade, 1 for Stroud, 2 for John Mechie, 3 for Xavier Hutchinson. I think this bad performance of this Texans pass offense and C.J. Stroud mainly had to do with, who they were going up against. But it also had to do with the fact that C.J. Stroud is shorthanded in the wide receiver group right now without Diggs and Collins, and he's gonna have to figure that out, and it might help him next week getting Nico Collins back. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, this was a tough one for the Texans, but and it's gonna get tougher. Lions next week, then Cowboys. I know the Cowboys have been iffy this year, but this defense has been iffy, and they've been iffy against wide receivers. The Cowboys have a pretty tough wide receiver. I think the Cowboys game, I hope the Texans win. I think the Texans probably beat Dallas, but I think the Dallas game might be really tight just because how the Texans have struggled against wide receivers this year, and CeeDee Lamb has done a really good job this year, a really solid job this year. Texans have sucked against wide receivers most of the year, so I think Detroit will be tight. That's a game the Texans need to win. Dallas, I think, will be a tight one too. So Texans need to get at least one or both of those games. As long as the Texans don't lose these next 2 games against the Cowboys and Lions, it's fine. If the Texans split these next 2 games against solid teams, or one great team and one solid team that has talent, then I think things will be fine. If you can split these next 2 games against the Lions and the Cowboys, you're 7-4. You got those hard games out of your system. I think things will look solid for the Texans, especially with the Colts not doing good, the Jags not doing good, and the Titans not doing good either. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Peace out. Go Texans.